Hello and welcome to this early, very early morning, still dark, not dawn, so I'm calling it Dawn Busters. Very early morning taste challenge. Got the bottles backwards, actually. This one came first. George Dickel, Tennessee Sour Mash Whiskey. Established 1870, they say. Superior 12 recipe. It's not aged 12 years, although some people might think it is without carefully examining the bottle. Handcrafted. Small batch, handcrafted with machinery. Tullahoma, Tennessee. There's George Dickel. 90 proof sour mash Tennessee whiskey. And it's owned by Diageo these days. You know, these whiskey companies undergo buyouts. The current owner is Diageo. B Aviation. Good morning, Ron. Good morning to you, B Aviation. We'll see if this thing will focus. It does. I bought this bottle for $12.50 at Walmart. True story. I don't know why they had it so cheap, but I bought it. Okay. Here's the competitor, introduced in 1992. "28 years after the other one. This is Jim Beam Black Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, aged 8 years, sour mash. Also, the current Jim Beam Black, which replaced this in 2015, is not age stated, so we don't know how long it's aged, just extra time, and it's not listed as sour mash. So they did change quite a bit when they replaced it. It wasn't just a label change; it was a change of the product. And I've gotten it wrong 4 times. 4 times I got it wrong. Why? I don't think Jim Beam is really separating itself from the others. It's good. I like it. I don't take any issue with it. It has a good flavor. It's smooth, easygoing, no off aromas, no off flavors. But it didn't really, nice embossed label, but it didn't really taste much different from other bourbons that I have. Honestly, it was hard when I did get it right. It was very difficult. Now this one has a rubber stopper, like a neoprene, from DuPont, that synthetic rubber they use on the bottom of shoe soles, tennis shoe soles. Plastic cap. Also embossed bottle, glass, clear as that one is. Got the old time label. They've updated the label recently. I have enough for one last taste challenge. Goodbye, Superior 12. You've done a decent job. Not exactly the greatest thing. I'll tell you why, because it tastes like Flintstone vitamins. Oh, yeah. There's not enough for a challenge. Sorry, I'm going to have to scrap this video. I'll keep it posted, but it's not going to count as a challenge. There's not enough. I'll try, but I don't think it's going to work. I thought I had more in the bottle. This is going to be bad. They also had the George Dickel rye, and that was $12.50 as well. $12.50. So you'll see what I mean. That's not going to be enough for a sample. But oh well, you don't know until you try. Rested for years. They don't say how many. Chilling the whiskey before filtering it through sugar maple charcoal. So they chill filter it. Then they drip it through maple like they do at Jack Daniels. 90 proof. Finest quality sipping whiskey. Uh-huh. Well, that's all I do with whiskey. I don't make cocktails. I don't drink it on ice. I don't even like it cold. I don't even like cold water. I'm a weirdo. But I know other people like that. They want to put their water in the fridge over crushed ice, whatever they like, ice water. I don't. I mean, I'll drink it, but I'd rather just drink room temperature water. Strange as that sounds, rather drink room temperature whiskey. Okay, so there's no use mixing them up. This won't be a blind taste test because how could I do it blind? I could tell just by the weight, and I'm gonna tell when I sip it. But I'm gonna say this. George Dickel is strange because it tastes like Flintstone vitamins. Secondly, it doesn't say straight whiskey anywhere on this bottle. Now I was reading people saying, well, Tennessee whiskey has to be straight bourbon. Then also it has to be from Tennessee, common sense. All the whiskey has to be from Tennessee, distilled and aged there. And thirdly, all Tennessee whiskey, except for this one distillery that was exempted from the law, has to be dripped through charcoal, called a Lincoln County process. And people say, well, that's why it's not bourbon, because it's dripped through charcoal. Dripping bourbon through charcoal does not make it not a bourbon. It just makes it a bourbon dripped through charcoal. Okay, I've tried to hammer this point to people, If you want to take bourbon and drip it through charcoal, go ahead. If you don't want to drip it through charcoal, don't do it. It doesn't make it or not it bourbon. It's still bourbon, okay? And if that's your rationale, then your rationale has no validity. I'm sorry, no credibility. But it's confusing, I know, and people put a lot of misinformation out there. But and I've seen so many videos where people say, "Oh, it's not a bourbon because it's dripped through charcoal." Man, forget that. Okay, believe me. Believe what I'm telling you, because what I'm telling you is a fact, not an opinion. Okay. Some people say it's got to be straight bourbon, but I was just reading the Tennessee regulations from 2013, I think, when they passed the law. Nowhere, and I mean nowhere in the regulations does it mention how long it has to be aged. All it says is aged in oak, new charred oak. That's it. Doesn't say anything about age at least 2 years. Whoa. So that wouldn't be straight bourbon. That would just be bourbon, because bourbon does not have an age regulation. If you read your regs carefully, it just has to be aged in oak for however long you want to age it. Now, if you want it to be called straight bourbon, you got to age it 2 years or longer. Third thing that was strange about this law, there's no discussion in there anywhere about flavoring or coloring, added or not added, or allowed or not allowed. You hear what I'm saying to you? You catch my drift? There's nothing in the Tennessee regulations that refer to allowing coloring or flavoring added or disallowing harmless flavoring and coloring added. So that's telling me, that's probably why they're not calling it straight Tennessee whiskey, because it probably got some harmless coloring and flavoring added, like caramel color and some flavoring to tweak it. B, it couldn't have violated the U.S. regulations because there are no U.S. regulations about Tennessee whiskey. It doesn't. Tennessee whiskey does not exist under U.S. law. It has no existence. You understand? It's not disallowed. It's not allowed. It doesn't exist. It's never referenced. Okay. It's only a state law. A state law for Tennessee does not apply to any other state. Okay. And in fact, they don't even mention the word bourbon. They just say must be 51% corn, aged in new charred oak, and then not barreled at above a certain proof, and it got to be at least 80 proof in the bottle. Well, that's bourbon, so they don't have to say it because they're given a regulation. Okay. Now, let's taste this. I'm telling you, it's going to taste like Flintstone vitamin. really don't know what makes it taste like that. Doesn't taste bad to me because I like Flintstone vitamins. I think they're made by Bayer, Bayer. They make them like little Flintstone shapes so the children would eat them. We used to love eating them, especially the grape. Me and my sister would fight over the grape. All right. So there it is. Would I buy it again? Theoretically, yes, but since I got bourbon galore, I don't need to. Would I recommend it? Yeah, I'd recommend it, but just get ready. Get a little bit unusual. And they probably make it unusual on purpose so that it'd be different from the other bourbons in Tennessee whiskeys. So it's fine. And, I think it's more like an A- than an A. If I said A on my solo review, but that was years ago. So I'm telling you what I think about it now. A-. I got people do that to me. Sometimes they'll pin me down. Well, in 2016, you said that beer was a 94, and now you're calling it a 90. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with your channel? I'm like, what's wrong with you? Because that was in 2016. I did it one time. I tasted the beer once, and I gave it a score. So then here I am 9 years later, 8 years later, talking about it. And, I'm not sitting up at night thinking about what I scored some obscure beer from New Jersey in 2016. Okay. All right. Jim Beam Black. I'm going to take a little sip and then I'm going to go and get the other product and we're going to start another video. It's nice. I like the charred oak. It's got a little creme brulee. It's got the vanilla. It's got the what you call that? The honeysuckle nectar flavor and the sweet corn. And it's very nice and it's enjoyable. And oh, by the way, the Dickel is 84% corn, 8% rye whiskey, and 8% single malt whiskey like you have in Scotland, like single malt whiskey. All right, and they blend them together, and then there it is. Okay, so the Jim Beam is probably in an A range, not an A-, be more like a 93, getting into A. Doesn't really stand out though. I mean, it's like any other kind of bourbon, regular old ordinary bourbon. So would I buy it? Yeah, I'd buy it. I did. But to try. But I wouldn't repurchase it. Would I recommend it? Yeah, I'd recommend it. But then you could just search around and you could find some other 86 proof bourbons that might be very similar to it and maybe cost a little less. But I don't know too many of those because Jim Beam Black is already $17.99 at some stores around here. I don't know too many that you're going to find that's cheaper than that. So it's kind of like, on about the cheapest you're going to find for that at that range, those components that I just described. So you say, but it's cheap on its own, which is why it doesn't stand out. Right. Okay. So now I'll be back shortly. Because this is a botch. I'm saving this. I'm not wasting. I'm not going to drink it. I'm going to save it and pour a little bit more. I'm going to save it. We're going to go up against Cascade Hollow. George Dickel Cascade Hollow. I have a bunch of that left. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. See you in about 5 minutes or less.